Hello, my name is Rohanna and I am a partner within our Global Mobility team. Today I am joined by my colleagues Vanessa Kistu and Matt Crawford. In our world we work with lots of employers and employees who are coming to the UK for assignments or to take up roles for a shorter period of time. And with the new rules there are lots of impacts for them. So Matt, can you just give us a quick overview of what the changes might mean for the sort of expat clients that we work with?
Yeah, sure. So the concept of domicile, which we're already very familiar with, is being abolished, and it's been replaced by something called the FIG regime, foreign income and gains regime, which will apply for a much shorter time than typically people would be non-domiciled for. It's only going to apply for a 4-year period. People will be able to elect into that regime, and instead of having the remittance basis of taxation that we would have now, where people could elect into being taxed on their taxed on the remittance basis, so only on the income that they bring into the UK. Instead, it's going to be done on a resident style basis, and only for the first 4 years, if you elect into that regime, you won't necessarily pay tax on your foreign income and gains.
Okay, so 4 years I think is probably a critical piece there in terms of the new rules, and I think less generous than what we have at the moment. Vanessa, are there any positives coming out of the kind of 4 years for people, or the new rules that have been announced that people can kind of latch onto?
I think it's great news that we still have at least 4 years, because for us the short-term expatriation is still quite popular. Post-COVID, post-Brexit, we're seeing a lot of employers still sending people to the UK for at least 3 years. So the fact that we still have the overseas work days relief for 3 years is great. And then a simplification of the rules regarding the bank account structuring is definitely a big bonus. It used to be a big headache, still is at the moment, big headache with segregating funds. So the relaxation is a very welcomed decision, I think.
And can you tell us a bit more about what that relaxation is in terms of how that works from an overseas workday perspective, which we know a lot of our expats do use?
So currently individuals or employees have to at least set up one bank account, which is a special mixed fund bank account, into which they are advised to receive their employment income to benefit from the overseas workdays relief. The issue with this structuring is it limits, or there's complexities regarding the remittance of funds to the UK. Now the proposed changes basically say you are effectively able to remit funds to the UK without any issues going forward. So I think not having to think about which bank account to set up and where is great. People will be spending more in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a simplification, I think, in terms of the rules there, with people be able to bring all of their kind of employment income into the UK where they couldn't before. So hopefully we'll see some more spending. So Vanessa, we talked a little bit about the advantages of the new regime if it does come in. I'm aware particularly that there used to be people that never used to claim the overseas workday relief. Do you think that's going to make a change for them?
Definitely, because in the past, those who had very few work days overseas, they would think it's quite burdensome to try and set up a non-UK bank account to manage their remittances based on, for example, just 10 non-UK work days. But going forward with the changes, I think it will also encourage those with very few non-UK work days to elect to claim that relief. The one point to note is it's very important to make sure that people keep track of their work days, because that is essential to make sure that the claim is as accurate as possible.
Matt, we do actually also have, on the flip side, people that do, come to the UK with the original intention of being here for, say, up to 3 years, but actually they love it so much in the UK that they do decide to stay for a bit longer. We have people here at the moment who are in that situation who might be availing of the current remittance rules, as well as people who might be thinking about it going forward. Is there anything that you think they should be thinking about in terms of kind of moves to the UK or those sort of longer term expats that are already here?
So I think there's a couple of things there. I think the first thing is not to rush into any decision making, because at the moment we've got some draft guidelines, draft rules around what might be going to be happening in the future, and taking decisions now when there's always the possibility that will change when the legislation comes out, or indeed a possibility of a change of government could mean that the rules might change again before they're even implemented in full. So I think one of the most important things is not to rush into any firm decision making now, but equally equally to keep up to date with what the changes might be, what they might look like. I think one of the really interesting areas is we'll now have this disconnect between the 4-year FIG regime and the number of years that you get overseas workday relief for. And in some cases, if someone's going to be here for a little bit longer, it might be a situation where they might not actually want to elect into the FIG regime after their overseas workday relief actually runs out, because you lose your personal allowance and you lose your capital gains tax annual exemption under the current rules. So that might be something to think about. But yeah, I think the most important thing is just to make sure you're keeping abreast of all of the potential changes that are going to crop up.
So Matt, something that we touched upon is obviously people coming to the UK who might be foreign nationals coming into the UK for the first time. But is there anything that those who would have been considered UK domiciled but have spent quite a bit of time outside of the UK need to think about?
Yeah, I guess one of the really big advantages for them is that if currently how the rules are going to be drafted, if they've been outside of the UK for 10 years or more, then they can still avail themselves of this regime. And of course, people who've been outside the UK may well have foreign income and gains as a result of the time that they've spent out. And that will apply even if they are UK domiciled individuals. So someone who is a UK domiciled individual currently under the current system, as long as they've been out of the UK for 10 years, they will still be able to claim the FIG regime when they come back to the UK, which is a real advantage for them.
Yeah, and a move away from what there currently is in place at the moment.
Correct,
so yeah, encouraging people to come back to the UK perhaps.
Exactly, correct.
So we've covered off some of the sort of employee considerations. As well as employee considerations, do you think employers need to be thinking about anything from a talent perspective as a result of the new laws that have been announced?
If we look at expat regimes out there, most countries have an expat regime that is far more beneficial, or at least appear far more beneficial than what the UK has just announced. To put it simply, for the UK it's going to be 4 years, whereas for other countries they start from 5 to 8, 9, 10 years, 15 years for Italy. So I think the UK will probably struggle to still be seen as an attractive location for expats because it's just 4 years going forward.
Yeah, so there could be an issue, for example, with expats looking to move to some of the sort of more beneficial locations as a result, where they get beneficial treatment on their income once they've had a little stint in the UK potentially.
Completely, and I can very well see that they will be here for 4 years and then they will leave to go somewhere else to continue to benefit from another expat regime.
And Matt, again from sort of the employer perspective, is there anything else that they should sort of be thinking about in terms of kind of engaging with their employees, or is there anything that they might be thinking about in terms of how their employees might react to this news?
Yeah, so I think I completely agree with Vanessa. I think it's quite likely that there's going to be some more short-term moves to the UK, so people might want to look at perhaps more secondments than local to local transfers. That might be a shift that we might see. I think one of the first and really important things is to think about communication with employees that might be impacted by this. I think some of them are going to have an awful lot of questions, and I think preempting those questions through putting things, for example, on their employee handbooks, on their intranet, communicating with employees that are likely to be affected is a really important thing to do, and I think that will help employees feel an awful lot more supported, and also making sure that that's really kept up to date, because it's really likely that some of these things are going to change and evolve as time moves on.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree, and I think what we might see coming out of this is, for example, more requests for remote working once someone's kind of come up to their 4-year period, or, for example, kind of commuter type arrangements where people feel they can go and establish themselves elsewhere and then come to the UK for, say, 2 to 3 days a week to sort of do their UK role and then work from another country. So I think it could actually sort of really change the landscape of expats in the UK kind of going forward. So it would be very interesting to see what happens. So thank you both for sharing your expertise today. It was very good to get your thoughts. If you have any further questions or want to hear more about how this might impact you, please do get in touch with me, Matt or Vanessa, or your usual contact at Blick Rothenberg. Thank you.